Got to put the mute back on. There we are. Hi, hi, hi. How are you? How are you?
Hello, Michael.
How's everything going, Yola?
Yes. Hold on. Let me just see if I can hear you. I think it's fine. Could you say what you just said again?
I said, how is everything going?
Everything is very well, thank you.
Good.
I'm good. Thank you
Good.
for doing this at this time. I know we have this time difference, so
Oh, that's fine.
bit of an early morning for you, maybe. Well, not really, but you know.
No, not with children running around and family in town. Usually up early.
Yeah, well, you know, that's all good.
Yeah,
as long
sure.
as other people will get to catch it later, that's fine. That'd be nice.
Yep. This is a special. So this is the play. This is a special little video for us from the 3WS side. We have a chance to hang out with. We're calling you our 5-star artist.
I did
For
see that on
Charcuterie
the
board game.
Kickstarter.
Yeah. So the Kickstarter launched on Tuesday. We're 5 days in. It's doing phenomenally well. And I know I've said this before and almost every time we've hung out, but your art is stellar. And the idea of having your art in this game was one of the things, like, I think one of the first things we decided to go after was to make sure that we had you in here, because the way that your some of the food that you did is just ridiculous. In the rule book on the website, you'll see the artichoke, the strawberries, the orange slices. It really is bonkers how good it looks. So we wanted to showcase a little bit of you, your art, your style. Ask some questions if anyone has any questions as they're joining in, or even later. Please pop a comment or a question in the chat, and we'll get around to it. Luca, what are you doing?
Chipping in.
Yeah, he'll pop in and say hello every now and then too. So yes, so a couple little things. Please first like and subscribe while you're here, because you might as well, because you're here. And then while you're at it, hop over to if you do an Instagram, please go look up Jola's Instagram feed of all the stuff. Not only does she do food, but she does so many other things that are just absolutely stunning. So go follow, go like, go do all the good things. So I guess quick announcements. The Kickstarter is live. You'll probably either be seeing this while the Kickstarter is still up. There's less than 9 days to go. We end on the 21st. So a week from Tuesday, I think Tuesday evening is when it goes. There's still a few stretch goals left. Last I checked before we went live, we're 1,276 backers, which is amazing. And we're up over 35,000. So go check that stuff out. The link is in the comments. Also, there's the Discords. If you have any questions or you want to know about the campaign or anything pops up, find us on the Discord. I'm basically living on there. So come say hi, ask questions, do whatever you got to do. And I think that's all for announcements right now. And I would like to introduce officially Jola.
Hello. Thank you for having me. And thank you for
Thanks for
your
taking the
words.
time. I appreciate you taking the time to come hang out and talk.
My pleasure.
Again, like I said in the beginning, your art is just stellar. So for those that are just tuning in or haven't had a chance to go find Jola's art on Instagram or the socials, or look at the Kickstarter page and look at the stellar work that she's done, from the charcuterie board to the food. Like, it's just amazing. The box cover, like it really is. It's tremendous. So you've done amazing work. So I thought for this time, if anybody has any questions, please drop them in. But I figured we'd do a little bit of like behind the curtain with you as the illustrator, as an artist, what you do, how you approach it, especially with something so specific as doing different foods for a board game, which I believe was the first time you've done that, right?
Yes, I've never illustrated a board game. That's why I was so excited about it, because I just thought it was a wild concept, especially given the theme of the game. Right. Which, by the way, anytime anyone asks me, "Oh, so what's the board game about?" And I'm saying, "Oh, it's a charcuterie board game." They kind of go, "Oh my God, that's kind of weird but brilliant," So it's just such an unusual theme that I just had to. Plus, I love food and illustrating food, eating as well, obviously. So it was just the perfect match, and I was just so happy to be like, okay, this is an unreal concept, so let's make it work. So I don't know how you made it look so good as well, because of course it's not just about the artwork. You have to also have the design behind it and the concept of the board game, which is totally over my head, that part. So I'm just amazed that this all came together, and it's incredible. So I'm so excited.
Yeah, it all came together really. I mean, the idea of having Charcuterie, the board game, was kind of like, oh, that's kind of cute and fun. Then we started looking at what Whitney and Josh did for a design, and how it actually functioned as an I Split You Choose board game, which personally, as a designer, the I Split You Choose mechanism isn't used often enough. I think it's a very underused mechanism. So that piqued my interest. Like, oh, cool, an I Split You Choose. And then the idea of like rearranging or arranging these tiles on a board as a charcuterie board, like that's just going to be beautiful, right? You get to feel good about what you've made, in addition to getting points and meeting goals or whatever. So then looking out into the world and, all right, well, what kind of aesthetic do we want? Do we want it to be like kitschy and fun? Do we want it to be cartoony? Then we started looking at influencers, people that did food art, and you were like number one. Like your followers, you have a tremendous amount of followers. Your art is absolutely beautiful. So we were like, yeah, what the hell? We might as well try it and see. You know, she'll probably say no, like whatever. It's a board game. It's weird. Like, but what's the worst that can happen? And I think right from the bat, when DeVito reached out and said, hey, we have this interesting idea. Would you be interested? I don't think there was too much of hesitation. I think it was almost immediate.
No.
Yeah, we're working together.
Absolutely. I mean, I think from my end, anytime there's a food illustration kind of concept, you know, as long as it's something that's, you know, kind of a real, concept for a project, I would say I'm all for it. You know, I think that's amazing because food illustration is also quite niche. I mean, you know, there's a lot of different strands of illustration, but I think food illustration is quite particular. It doesn't obviously fit every brief, and a lot of people mostly do, I would say, kind of more imaginative art as well, or something, you know, portraiture as well, landscapes. So food, I would say, is definitely quite a niche aspect of illustration. So anytime there's anything exciting going on, I'm like, yes, please, I need this, you know. And it looks so good. I'm just so pleased that thank you so much for the nice comments. I mean, it would not be happening without all of your, you know, involvement in all of this. So it's definitely hugely, you know, important to have this teamwork. But I think it's just such an exciting project, and especially the cover. When I saw it, when you just sent it to me, the first kind of drafts, I was like, "Are you joking? This looks so good! Like I would literally buy that game right now. Like if I just saw it on a bookshelf, I'd be like, yeah, I need it." So
yeah, it's been super fun to work on. We've been working on it for a while, and I mean, I'm biased, obviously, but we have a really good team at 3WS. And then Whitney and Josh, they made a really great game. Like it's super fun. It's super quick, very approachable. And then bringing you on board to do the art was obviously the right move because it's beautiful. And then Brian, our graphic designer, helped with the layout of the rule book, the deli board or chalkboard or however, with the layout of the different food items and the graphic design, the user experience for the game itself. Like it's come together really, really nicely. Like it's beautiful from front to back. Box cover, back box, the instruction book, the tile pieces, like everything about this has come together really, really nicely. So it's just
I have to actually give a shout out to Brian, as you say, because I actually haven't spoken to him at all, but the way he makes also even just the infographics for Kickstarter, they just look so good. And graphic design is a completely different ballpark because illustrations, you know, you work on them and that's kind of like an individual piece. As I will show you kind of in a second, I have the originals for the artwork for the game here, but you know, the graphic design part of it is what makes or breaks the artwork, because then how you display it and work is kind of the cherry on top. Well, it's the whole package really, but yeah, I can't do graphic design, so I'm just I'm in awe. Amazing.
It could be one little thing, like when you display cards or the littlest things in board games can really make a big impact and ruin it. Like down to the where the symbols are located or the icons that are used to represent actions or whatever. It's a very different process, and Brian nailed it. Like everything about this game, the feedback we've gotten from the content creators, the play testers about the rule book has been super easy to understand. Like very rarely do they have to go back to the book to look up any of the rules. It's very intuitive. You understand how it all works. And thematically, like crackers next to meat or veggies or fruits and cheeses, like it all kind of makes sense from the charcuterie side of things, because you don't want certain things next to certain things, and you get more points if they're next to other things, and you want your breads next to your dips. Like it does make sense from an aesthetic point of view in real life. Then you put it into a board game, and the way it all came together, it really does look beautiful.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes a good board game. I don't actually play that many board games, but when I do, when they're difficult to follow, I get discouraged very quickly, you know.
Right.
So I think I'm just one of those people that would be like, I would be playing if it's easy to understand. So that's for sure. I mean, that's difficult to achieve as well. Like anything, you know, everything that looks easy and seems easy is actually difficult to do. So hands down. Yeah.
Yeah, we wanted it to be, I mean, it's obviously it's an approachable game from two different perspectives, right? The cost of it at $29 for during the campaign, like we wanted it to be approachable for everybody. And then from the gamer's perspective, it's got enough in there for your seasoned gamer, like people that like puzzles, like playing games. It's there, but also this game can be brought out like during a party or to people that don't necessarily play games, or parents or loved ones that are like, wait, board games? Like this has got that reach from both sides, and it's unique in that way too.
It's definitely approachable, which is another reason why I was interested in it. It seems like a really fun, easygoing game as well. And I think that's so needed, like for people like myself, actually, because I'm not much of a game player, as I said. So that kind of game definitely would appeal to me. And parties, like just bring friends around, just have a little fun.
Yeah. One of our friends, Shannon, actually played the game and had a charcuterie board, like made a charcuterie board.
I've seen that, yeah.
She just posted a reel of her and her, I believe it was her dad, maybe her stepdad. I think it was her dad. They made a charcuterie board after the one that you made, and then had people to play the game while she made a charcuterie board for the game. Like that, it's really cool to see people doing this.
That's so cool. I love that. Yeah, I saw that video. I didn't have a chance to comment yet, so I will go back to that. But yeah, I saw it briefly this morning. It was so fun. Made me really happy.
So Josh is one of the co-designers. Thanks, Josh, for coming in. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Josh. That's so sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, it's come together really nicely. Everything from the art to the graphic design to the Kickstarter campaign, the feedback, everything about it has been just stellar. So, all right. So I want to do.
Shall we talk about the artwork?
Absolutely. I'm going to play. So those that were tuning in right in the beginning, I played a little 4-minute video that Jola sent us. So I'm going to play that again without sound. And then maybe we can just talk about like what we're looking at, because there's multiple blueberries, I believe, at different stages. And then you're kind of touching up one of them. So let me play that. Let me see if I can do this without screwing up everything, because that's kind of what I do on here. I should be okay. Screen share, window. There it is. Share. All right. So let me turn the sound down and hit play.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So the blueberries, we actually haven't painted blueberries for the game. Those of you who have seen the game, you will know that. But this video was just a really good representation of how I would normally approach food illustration, which is a realistic botanical style illustration. So this was a different project that I was doing. And yeah, it kind of looks like I'm touching up the blueberry that I'm painting right here, but I'm actually still, I would say, halfway through the process. It's just a very time-consuming process sometimes if you want to achieve something that looks realistic and kind of, as if it was a photo more than an illustration. So I'm adding shading, basically. So with watercolor, what you have to do is work in layers. The blueberries that you will see at the bottom, which are very pale, that would be the initial layer. So in terms of painting in watercolor, you would, if you're working on a botanical illustration like this one, you would work in layers. So you apply a very kind of pale, less saturated color to the kind of the bottom layer, and then you work by layering it up, kind of adding more and more details on top. So so this is kind of how I can explain it in words. It's quite difficult to kind of speak about it, but when you paint, you just have to have a lot of patience to go with the first layer, then you add more saturation, more color for the further layers, add more details as you go. It's quite difficult not to not overdo it. Sometimes you kind of go overboard and it looks almost, well, you're trying to be realistic, but sometimes just too much. So finding the fine line when it just looks real, it's kind of the tricky part sometimes. So I don't know if I have, actually I'll show you later, but I'll have some failed illustrations for the board game here as well, I think. So I'll maybe just show you what I mean about that. But yeah, it's a very time-consuming process. So I think here I was working with a tiny brush just to add the tiny little, shadows and highlights that you would get if you see a blueberry. So I think it's not for the impatient people, basically. You have to have quite a lot of patience to work in this way. But for some reason, when it's food or let's say leaves, flowers, I have a lot of patience for this. Not for portraiture though. Not for specific other like things to paint. I don't know. It's something about the botanical world that really kind of gives me a lot of peace. But it's also can be quite frustrating, because if you mess up at any point,
sure,
you have to start again. So an illustration like this, I would say, can take, well, it depends on the complexity of the subject. I would say between 2-3 hours to even maybe 3 days per piece. Well, obviously with the intervals, we wouldn't be sitting all day long, but
Yeah.
it just depends. The artichoke, I think that maybe some of you have seen, took probably about 4 days, just like because it was so. I've never painted an artichoke in my life. That was the first one I painted, and I'm actually very, very pleased with it. But it was quite difficult to get the highlights and the shadows correctly.
It's
So
really hard to pick a favorite piece that you did because they really are amazing. Like the cracker, like it looks, even initially, I think the cracker was the first one maybe that we saw that you had sent over, and it looks so friggin' real. Like you just want to, it looked like real, like you wanted to eat it. But the artichoke, the strawberry, the orange slice, the detail that you have in the cucumber, like some of those are just like when you're like, wait, this is art, this isn't a picture. People are blown away at that artichoke and that strawberry.
Yep, I have to agree. I think the artichoke is my favorite. I was quite surprised that I managed to pull that off. I was actually quite like, oh God, you did it, you did it. That was just one of those moments. So that's also a fun part of what I do, because sometimes I surprise myself. I'm not really sure if I'm able to do some certain things, and then they come out somehow. So that's really great, and like a relief. But yeah, I can't really tell you why I'm interested in these things. I think I just love textures. I love colors. I love anything that's got quite like an interesting and maybe also slightly what's the word, irregular texture, because certain things, like if you were to paint, I don't know, a house or something, there's quite a lot of symmetry, quite a lot of things that should be done properly so that they look like the real thing. With vegetables and botanical items, you can be kind of wonky as well, so you can add a bit of texture somewhere that maybe it doesn't actually exist in the reference image, if that's what you're using as your reference. Right. But no one's going to know, so you can make it your own as well. So right. I think it just gives me a little bit more freedom in that sense.
That makes sense.
Maybe that's what it is.
So I have two questions about the video. I played it again, so I have two questions.
Okay.
You said the bottom, these two here, the pale ones, that would be more of the base layer, like more in the beginning. Which is this upper left one, like complete? Like would that one be done?
Yeah, so actually the 4 ones that you see would be complete. I mean, I wasn't quite happy with some of them. For example, I think the second one in the first row, I just felt like it looked a bit squished. So basically this project, I needed a few different blueberries. So that's why I had quite a few of them lined up. Gotcha. But I didn't use all of them. So yeah, as I said, like sometimes it just works, sometimes it doesn't. But the 4 ones that you see are pretty much finished. So the one at the bottom, I think I gave up on in the end. I'm not sure I actually finished the 3 ones. I think it was a bit too much. So I ended up with just using the individual blueberries for whatever I was using that for. So yeah, sometimes you'll see me like using one sheet of paper and I just have multiple different, trials of using just the first layer. And then I just kind of abandon it because maybe the shape wasn't right, or yeah, I just go with feeling, really. I don't know, it's not really a rule. I just kind of decide, okay, this one works, this one doesn't, so we move on with whatever it is. But yeah, so I would say to go from the stage at the bottom, the pale blueberry, to what you're saying me painting right now is probably maybe about 5 hours in between, if you're just like sitting and doing it in one go,
right?
Just to give you an idea of timing. So I mean, you can see me adding like tiny strokes. You probably don't even see much of a difference,
Yeah.
As I'm doing it. You're probably like, oh, what is she doing? But I am adding tiny bits of pigment and tiny bits of paint just to build up that shadow. And I initially wanted to be, I think the blueberry I'm painting now, I wanted the light to be kind of falling from the top, but then I thought, oh no, actually it would be really nice if it was lit up a little bit from the bottom as well. So maybe you will see that. I don't know if you can actually notice it, but at the bottom of the blueberry is a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
And the bottom, the middle of the blueberry is a bit darker. So I just wanted it to be kind of, slightly more interesting lighting situation as well, not just flat.
Well, I think the lighting just makes it pop even more.
Sorry, come again?
The lighting, the way you're introducing the light, it just makes it more realistic.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about watercolor, because if you're painting with watercolor, it's a transparent medium, so you have to use water to dilute the pigment. And then you can work with contrast and highlights in this way. So if you build up and add more color in one area, it will become darker and darker and darker. You can't really go back from that, though, which is why you work in layers. So you have to kind of preserve your highlights by just not putting that much pigment in these areas, which are meant to stay light or bright. But watercolor really allows you for this transparency. So as long as you're kind of careful, you can get a lot of nice contrast this way. So people say it's the most difficult medium to work with, but I'm not sure. I think it's just more that you need a lot of patience for it.
It looks like
about the difficulty, or more about patience.
Yeah, it looks like it's very patient. You need to have, that's one skill you need to have. Not only the talent to be able to do the layers and do the highlights and do the colors, but patience, I feel like, would be almost number one.
Yeah, for sure. And I like painting quickly as well, like other things. You can kind of do loose painting as well, which is much quicker, more like sketching with a brush, actually. And that's really enjoyable with watercolor as well. It just depends what you're after, what kind of effect you're after. But for certain, these botanical ones require patience, that's for sure.
So I notice to the right of the screen right now is, I'm going to assume that's your pigment. And then to the left is this paper towel that keeps encroaching on your art. It keeps sneaking in on you. Are you dipping in the blue and then you're taking off excess? Like, how is that working?
Yeah, sorry, that's not actually visible because when I film these videos, it's hard to fit everything in one frame. So on the right, that would be my palette with the color that I'm using. So as the top of the video shows you the paints that I had lined up. So before I start painting in general, anything, I pre-mix my colors. So I just make sure that the colors that I mix and I'll be using are the ones I actually want to, follow with in the illustration. So I kind of have that ready. So on the right, which you can't see, is my palette with the actual blue that I'm painting with. And on the right, it would be either the test sheet. So I have a little test sheet for colors just to make sure that the color is, the right saturation as well. Because what I'm doing here with the layers, you have to apply, something that's not too dark, not too light, just something that's, that's going to be the correct amount of pigment. So I'll either be testing that on the test sheet, or there will also be a kitchen towel just to get rid of excess water, excess pigment, because you're dipping the brush in water and pigment kind of consistently. With watercolor, you have to keep the water kind of, going. So, so it's those things, but they're out of the frame. Sorry.
There's a couple of times I saw that paper towel start coming in, and you had to move it. Like it wanted to see what you were doing. You were like, no, go over here.
Yeah. The paper towel usually becomes like an abstract work of art of its own. I would just show you this old one. This is like one I'm using currently for. Sorry. I'm just painting some. Oh, there we go. Using some painting some flowers at the moment, actually, for a botanical project as well, and they're pink. So this is what you get.
That's great.
I mean, I never thought about showing it to anyone, but some people do, and I'm like, no, this looks a bit like a mixture of random colors. Anyways, but that's kind of the process. But I can show you the originals for the game and kind of show you how I went through thinking about how I can approach them.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'll just flip my camera around and hopefully it will work this time.
And just don't leave the
switch it off. Let's see. Back camera. Okay, we got it. Let me just mount this on my phone holder.
Hey, Matt. Good to see you, buddy.
Okie doke.
Let me make your screen bigger. There we go. So, Matt, we're hanging out with Jola, the artist on Charcuterie. She's taking us through the process, and we just watched a video of her doing the blueberries, which are not in the game. It was a side project, and now she's showing off some of the original artwork from Charcuterie that she did for us. Oh, from down to too. Wow.
Come again?
You got the sketches there too.
Yes, so I will show you the sketches because basically the process was digital. So I have my iPad here and I'll show you what I'm doing. So this is an app called Procreate. Sorry, I'm just going to hold this so you don't see the lamp. This is an app called Procreate. So I have this folder for the board game and I have all sorts of, I'm usually quite messy. So, these things are like they're just my notes and all that stuff. But for example, there is a folder here. We have some broccoli and cauliflower to paint. So what I would do, very often, this is just an example, but I would find an individual, like just a stock photo, from the internet, which I'm not copying directly, but anyway, I just had this kind of cut out piece of broccoli, and I cut out a piece of cauliflower that I also found online, and I merged these into this shape because we knew that, you gave me the shape outlines for the game, so I knew that they had to be kind of, in this, let's say, heart shape, let's just call it a cluster. So I just put them here, kind of cut them out in this shape. And then I would go on with the Apple Pencil for the iPad, and I would just draw a kind of very random sketch just to see kind of how I can make it work within this shape. So these would be drawings that I would do on the iPad, and that were the initial sketches for the game. Then I would send these kind of sketches to you, just so that you can tell whether the shape is correct. You can tell me, and that's what we were doing kind of back and forth for a bit. So that was one example of the broccoli, but let's see. For example, we have the artichoke.
Oh, I love this one.
So this was the first sketch. I was also using a reference image as well that I found online somewhere. This sketch was actually very confusing, I have to tell you. I was confusing myself. So the shadow areas that you see, I was trying to, hold on, let me just find the actual artichoke. It will make more sense when I show you the illustration. Oh, goodness me. Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, the broccoli as well, by the way. That's just the broccoli that we just saw. So this is the artichoke that's painted with watercolor, and this is the sketch. So, you know, of course, the shape will remain the same. What I would do with these sketches on the iPad, I don't actually have the direct. Do I have this? Oh, here. So I would, you know, send these to you for approval in terms of the actual shape of the illustration. And then because I wanted to transfer these digital illustrations from the iPad onto watercolor paper, which, you know, is meant to be hand-drawn, I was using tracing paper to transfer these images onto paper, onto watercolor paper. So this was like my medium in between the iPad and the watercolor paper. So I'll show you what I did. So because I was painting them quite small, you can see the illustration. Oops, hold on. Hidden layer. The illustrations are not massive. You can see, like, you know, compared to my hand, they're not huge because they don't have to be massive. You know, I'll just scan them bigger. But I would zoom out on the iPad, kind of like this, let's say. And then I would take some tracing paper, like so. Let me see if I can show you. This is very messy, this tracing paper. But anyway, if I put it like flat on the iPad, oh God, then actually I'm able to see, whoops. Oh my Lord, you know what? This is quite tricky because I need to like block the layer. Anyway, you get the idea. So if I put the tracing paper on top, I'm able to go with an actual pencil on top of the tracing paper and make the outline of my sketch. So that's what I did. I would zoom out, and this, as you can see,
right,
would be the sketch for the artichoke right here. I know it's messy, so please ignore that. That's fine. That's all I need. You know, it doesn't have to be pristine. The issue with this one, as you can see, is very confusing. So I was just like, what am I doing here? It looks kind of, you know, like an animal or something. I don't even know. Or a cabbage. So then I had to find a reference image, which I can't find right now, but I had a reference image for an artichoke heart cut in, you know, cut kind of cross section. And then I was just following that image to be able to ascertain where these shadow areas are meant to be.
right.
I'm talking about the actual insides of the artichoke. So yeah, that took a while. I was quite frustrated with this for, let's say, like a day and a half. But then at some point with these illustrations, things just click and they just come into place. So then I just figured out, okay, I need to put much darker green, almost black, in fact, in between these layers.
Right.
And then it just started making sense. Then I went into the middle of the artichoke, which is red, pink, actually. So yeah, I don't even know. I mean, to be fair, I wish I filmed the whole process of this one because it was very intricate, but I don't have a video for it, unfortunately. But at one point, it just made sense. And then, yeah, we just build up the layers, build up the shadows. Quite a dreary process sometimes. You kind of want to rip the paper, but then you're like, okay, no. Let's focus here. So that's what happened with this one. So that was the kind of, you know, in a nutshell, that's the process. I have lots of sketches here. So here we have the sourdough, which is this one, actually, just over here. We have the sourdough and all sorts of other ones. So I would first always sketch on the iPad, and then I would create the illustration on paper. The reason why I do this is because it's just easier for me to sketch on the iPad because I can remove any mistakes I make. Or if something doesn't work, maybe if I send it to you and you're like, okay, this doesn't work, then it doesn't matter. I didn't waste any paper. I didn't have to like rub everything out. Just it's digital, so you can just change it quickly, send it quickly as well. So that's the process. So yeah, that would be the iPad process for every single one. The messy tracing paper situation. I had more. I don't know where they went. They're not super precious, you know. I can make them again if I need to because I have the digital sketches. So these are just the kind of in between the medium. But anyway, here we have the pile.
Matt is asking, once you've traced it from the iPad, do you continue on the piece of paper or do you do it digitally? And I think you after you trace it from the iPad, you stick to the paper, right?
Yeah, the iPad's just for the sketches, just for the loose kind of digital pencil sketches. So yeah, I think that's the only. I think maybe there was one illustration of a cheese that I added a little bit of digital kind of twist to it, but that was on Photoshop actually, and on my laptop, not even on the iPad. But otherwise, everything that you see was then transferred onto watercolor paper. This is all watercolor paper, specifically for painting in watercolors. So everything was then done manually, by hand. So yeah, no digital artworks involved in the process.
Colors are so amazing. Like it definitely isn't translating as vibrant as it is in person, but that orange slice, the colors on that, I swear to you, the colors on that artichoke, it looks like it was just a picture. Like it's unreal how. And I almost don't believe you that you had never done an artichoke before because it came out so perfect.
I have not. I am not. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
it's
not
amazing.
fooling you. I'm really quite impressed with myself with this one. I have to say, I'm not. I'm genuine. Like, really, how did I? I'm not sure if I'll be able to do it again now. I mean, sometimes one day you're lucky, you have a good day, and then you're able to pull it off, and then maybe another day you would try and it just wouldn't work. So I'm quite pleased with this one. And as you can see, what I was doing, because they're quite small illustrations, I wanted to. And there was quite a lot of them as well. So I was painting them fairly small because what I then do is scan them with my scanner, and you can scan them in the really high resolution. So actually for the needs of the game, or even for displaying as your portfolio, this size is absolutely fine. You can just blow it up massive anyway.
Right.
But this is why you have these like quite small illustrations, and you have quite a few on one sheet of paper as well.
Right.
But I'll show you, for example, here. This is the one I gave up on for some reason that, so this is the finished dragon fruit. And this one, I don't know, just wasn't working. You probably wouldn't be able to tell why. And I'm not even sure why. I just felt like it was just wrong. So I had to, I think I did it like 3 times actually, the dragon fruit, until I managed to be happy with this one. So that was one process. And then, let's see, it was the same with the fig jam. Oh, by the way, this is your favorite fruit, Michael.
Yeah, thanks for showing off the olives, Jola. I really appreciate it.
You love olives, I know that. Oh dear. Hold on, let's see. So yeah, just wanted to show you that some of them were, took a few trials. Oh, there it is, I can see it.
That tomato is also one of my favorites, and I'm not a big tomato fan, but that tomato came out like the shininess, the glimmer that you give it. It just, those are unbelievable.
Yes, I love the tomato actually, and I love the cucumber as well. And the cucumber was really fun to paint. This was maybe one of the easiest ones, just because it actually only involved green. Doesn't, like a lot of these illustrations have quite a lot of colors going on as well. This actually only needed green. It was quite transparent as well, so I was mostly using water actually, very diluted green for a very pale color here. And then these seeds over here, they were so subtle as well, so you don't need that much, that many layers as well. It was quite a pleasant process, but I really liked the way it turned out, especially from afar. I think it looked quite real. But yeah, I mean, you just have to have patience to go with the details and add the shadows. I mean, I say just. It's quite time consuming. So yeah, I don't know if it's for the faint-hearted, but my other favorite is probably this one as well.
Oh yeah.
Passata. Just loved painting it. I don't know if the adding the peppercorns. It's such a fun process. You kind of feel like you're creating food in front of you. I don't know. It's really unusual, one of a kind. And then here we have the fig jam, which, well, That was quite a tricky process actually, because the fig jam is coming with like it's within a ramekin.
Right.
So I painted the ramekin separately, and then I would scan all these images, and I would cut out the middle of the ramekin, and then I would paste the actual fig jam kind of digitally in Photoshop. Just put it here.
Right.
And then the fig as well, I would just cut it out and put it on top of the jam, and then just put everything onto the ramekin.
Right.
So yeah, there was a few processes that I did digitally, but that was kind of more post-processing. But these ones, yeah, I was trying to get the fig jam and just wasn't working, so gave up on these. And we have this one. And yeah, the cracker, love the cracker. I think maybe you're right. I think that was the first illustration I've worked on, I think.
I think it was the first one. Like we saw a bunch of the outlines and the sketches that you did, but I think the first one we saw that was actually like colored in was the cracker, and I was blown away. Like the salt, you get the little bits of the salt on top, like the shading of the light to the crispy dark. Like it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I think that was maybe the first one. That one really made me excited as well, because I remember thinking, oh, this would actually look nice as a board game piece, you know? Like I already envisioned that from then on. You have your favorites? I'm sorry.
You gotta show them. You have to show them.
Favorite olives. This is on a sheet of paper. This was actually a different project, so sometimes I do that too. I just kind of this was for someone else. Some cookies that I was painting. Oh, and then we have the. This is the board that I'm pretty sure that's the one that we actually play on, right? Or maybe one of those. I can't remember now.
Yeah, that's the one we play on. It's a little bit it got a different dye. It's a little bit redder, but that's the one we play on. Yep.
So this was really fun to paint as well. This is a bit larger, as you can see. I wanted this one to be larger just because I thought, okay, maybe if they need like a really big resolution because it's meant to be a bigger piece for the game, I wanted it to be larger. And it was actually easier because there's quite a lot of like, you know, the wood texture that I wanted to really get into and give it like quite a lot of space. And this was really fun to paint because I was like, okay, I don't know, it's very meditative, you know, it's quite repetitive, as you can imagine, you know, going through the layers and adding the shading kind of like vertically almost. That was really quite relaxing, in fact. But yeah, loved how this turned out. So what I would do, I would just find images of chopping boards, basically, or serving boards online and look at different wood textures. So I think maybe I downloaded, I don't know, let's say 5 pictures of different boards. And then I would just look at the wood texture and then trying to just make it look, you know, realistic. So for most of these illustrations, they actually never had just one reference image. It'll be multiple. Like the shape, maybe I would find a board of this shape online and I would just use that as the reference for the shape, but then the actual texture would be from a different picture of a different board, if you get me. So this one, yeah, as well, love painting this.
Yeah, it was good.
It kind of look like eyes, a bit creepy, but
they do look like eyes.
Oh, I can hear Luca. Hello, Luca.
He wanted to come over and show me a cow that he just brought in from the living
room. He sounds excited.
No, this is the food. Don't touch the food. I have some of the tiles that you painted out so I can show him on camera, and he wants. I think he wants to eat them.
Oh, well, if only they were real.
Yeah,
that would be great.
Yeah, Josh.
You have some cheeses. I'll show you the cheese. Actually, the cheese is interesting because it was, you know, it looks probably one of the easiest ones to paint, but I actually struggled with the cheese a lot because they don't have much contrast to them. The cheese wedges, they're quite flat. You know, it's mostly yellow, basically. So I was not really quite happy with them. I mean, I didn't really know what to do, how to like, you know, make this a little bit more snazzy rather than just a blob of yellow. So I did struggle a little bit. So you can see I tried which one was it? The Swiss cheese with the holes in it. I was trying quite a few times to get it right, but finally settled on this one, which is, you know, not really my favorite, but I just did what I could really with the yellow. Sometimes you just have to just accept that an object is, you know, maybe less visually interesting than others, but it was a bit easier with the blue cheese, for example, because of course there's a bit more color, a bit more texture going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just depends on the subject. And then we have, I'm just showing all of them. Yeah, there's loads, as you can see, but almost went through all of them now.
That's strawberry. I'm looking at the strawberry tile in my hand now, and the way that you have the seeds like recessed into the strawberry and the veins on the inside it's unreal.
Yeah, they're really fun to paint. They are also quite time consuming, as you can imagine. But
Yeah.
when you get it finally, at last, then you feel really accomplished. So
Right.
quite a rewarding subject, I'd say, and really enjoyed painting the blueberries as well. Really fun shading these ones, just adding a bit more black,
Right.
into the corners. That was really fun. Oh yeah, and there's the cracker. Another cracker. We had two crackers, didn't we?
Yeah, 2 crackers.
Yeah.
Unreal.
That one looks like a cushion, actually, a little bit. It's quite nice.
It's
And
soft.
here we have the cover.
There it
which
is.
I can't help it, but it must be my favorite just because it's so complete. It's just and kind of like an artwork in itself. So
Right.
it's a standalone piece and a statement piece, I would say. That one was, as you can imagine, that one was definitely time consuming. I mean, there was a lot of elements. I think I remember I was even ill at some point, so I had to work from home because normally I work from a studio. That's where I am today as well. So I have my setup, I have my desk and everything. But I was too ill to go to the studio because it's not that close from my house. So I stayed home and I tried working on this at home. But I was like crouching because I don't really have like a good, working chair at home. So I was like crouching, painting like the figs. And I was like, oh my God, this is never going to get finished because it, just seemed so long because I would focus on one item at a time. But eventually when I started feeling like it's getting there, I felt so excited just because it just looks so complete.
Did you do the same process with that? Did you start with like images and then you traced it and then you did one full art with color, or did you take each piece individually and then put it together?
What did I do? I mean, let me see. Just quickly, I think I had a sketch on the iPad, so I can probably see what was happening there.
Also, Matt's asking, would you ever do them entirely on the iPad?
Probably not, because I'm not really an iPad artist. I mean, I use the iPad for sketches mostly, and that's just my process. I know a lot of people use the iPad for, actual artworks. Never really been my thing. I just love painting kind of with my hand, but
Gotcha.
I mean, never say never. I just don't think I would know how to, because you can, of course, use these settings that look like watercolor or painting or whatever, add the textures, but I just feel like I wouldn't be able to pull it off, in a realistic manner as well. I'm not sure, maybe, but no, I think watercolor, it's time consuming, but it's worth it.
Sure.
In terms of the sketch, I mean, I would just start with like, this is like super rough, you see? So I was kind of trying to see, I don't even know what this is. This is very crooked, actually. But anyway, it made sense to me at the time. So don't ask. I don't know. I think I was trying to basically see what could be next to what. So we had I wanted to have a bit of variation with the shapes because I knew there would be ramekins which are square. Some of the crackers were square as well. Whoops, sorry.
Right.
And then some circular crackers and tomatoes and blah, blah, blah. And there's fruit. So I was trying to make an arrangement which would have different things next to each other. Kind of like what you were saying earlier about how you arrange your charcuterie. Like some things should just not be next to each other.
Right.
So I wanted to have a bit of contrast. So the white cheeses were, I had to separate them just so they're not, kind of merging together. The cheeses were separate, actually, all of these. So I think, let me see. You know what? I do know what I have to show you. Do I have this folder? I had another folder which was not on the Procreate app. It was there we go. Okay, this is a folder with pictures that I downloaded from the internet as well. Let me see if I have. Oh, there we go. There we go. This is the juicy part. So this was the planning for the actual cover. So I was downloading, I think, images from Pinterest, not to copy them directly, but just to see what people do with charcuterie boards, how they arrange them, because I wanted to see what's next to what. So I'm pretty sure what I was doing is just looking at loads of images and saying, okay, we could put the tomato next to the cheese or next to the fig jam, have a bit of arrange. Oh, this was one of the sketches I made, actually, which then we discarded because we didn't want this to be like a bird's eye view. We wanted it to be more sideways.
Yep.
I remember I sent this to you and you were like, okay, maybe not.
And it looked great. It looked great, but
perspective.
we definitely wanted that angle. It represented it a little bit better.
Yeah, I think this is more realistic. Like, imagine this on your desk, on your table, when you're serving. So yeah, I just went through series of arranging kind of what to put next to each other.
Right.
As you can see, it's quite a lot of those files. I definitely went like to a bit of a rabbit hole on Pinterest. I was like, oh my God, that is a lot of charcuterie to look at. Makes you really hungry.
Yeah, it does.
So yeah, that was the process, just kind of, it's almost like cooking, but you're cooking for the sake of painting it.
There's your artichoke too.
That was the image that I used as a reference. Yeah.
Amazing. You put that side by side to your art. It would be hard to tell the difference.
Yeah, let me see. Goodness me, I have too many now. I lost the artichoke now. I mean, it's here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I mean, I know it's kind of almost a copy of this. I mean, of course, I was changing a little bit about it, but I had to almost follow it because, as I said, I haven't. Whoops, can you hear me? Did I mute myself?
No, you're good.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have to mute myself. I have to follow it like this because I never painted one. But then again, I cut off certain bits. I didn't follow it like to the actual brim. Right. So this is just because it's like, come on, how many variations of an artichoke shape can you have? You just have to you just have to follow it somehow. So
sure.
So yeah, and we had some bread as well. So yeah, all sorts of, Oh, actually, do you remember we were meant to have a piece of salmon there and we discarded it?
Yeah, the
it
turkey.
Was meant to be grilled salmon.
Yeah, there's a couple things that for those that are watching and cross-referencing the campaign and the tiles that are in the game, there are a few things that didn't make it. There were a couple of shapes, like the julienne shape that had the peppers and the celery, that didn't make it.
Yeah.
The turkey and the sourdough loaf, they didn't make it. The dragon fruit. So there's more stuff, if desired, can be added to I don't know, freshen up people's charcuterie board moving forward, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's quite a lot to work with anyway, so I think we're fine. But yeah, it was fun actually, just to kind of see what can work as well, because then you have to envision which pieces will actually make an impact and make sense for the game. So yeah, the cover was
taking the shapes and everything to make sure that it translated well to function as a board game. Yeah. With layering and adjacency and grouping and stuff like that. There were certain tiles, especially the ones that were a little bit more problematic from the gameplay perspective, were the julienne shapes, the peppers and the celery. It was just weird, because then you'd have this gap. Yeah, but I mean, it's not to say that they won't. I don't know, depending on how we move forward with stuff, and if there's a demand, they might make it in future things.
Yeah, I mean, I remember you trying to explain to me how you were, kind of going about how to even create those, and that just goes over my head, in terms of production. So I was like, well, fair enough, I mean, if you're telling me it's not going to work, I trust you. That's all good,
Yeah,
but
we tried so many different things to make it as translatable as possible to what, like the layout of a charcuterie board. We had the original prototype was white border, and that's the one we were playing with, and the white border just didn't do it justice. And then we tried to do a light brown, dark brown to represent the board, and that didn't look right. Then we did a grain of the charcuterie board, and then it got really wonky because the grain was going in so many different directions. Then we landed on this color border by chance, and it just works really well. It gives you a really quick visual to what the tile's food group is without having to worry about like referencing a guide. And then on the back, we have the actual icon of what the fruit is, or the food. I just looked at a fruit, what the food is. So, like, this is a vegetable, or, this is a fruit. So you can look at it visually really quickly to see the border. And then you can look at the back of it if you want to see what type it is. So it ended up landing on an iteration that works really well.
Yeah. And that's interesting, because the creative process for that would be, you know, obviously very different. But in terms of like how you make decisions and how you have to go through certain trial and error processes, you know, it just translates to things like also the illustrations. You know, sometimes things just work, and then maybe sometimes you think, oh yeah, this will work, but then you do it, you see it in flesh, and it just doesn't work. You know, so this is the issue. You also have to go through these, you know, back and forth processes. So it's just how it is with the creative things, you know, just can't help it. You have to go through it. But then you arrive
sometimes
at
it
a
works,
conclusion.
sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it clicks, and you don't know until you don't know until you know.
And yeah, but just last note on this, I was, I mean, of course, you know, this was almost a finished piece, but then we had some deliberations as to what background to put that on the actual cover. And I remember you were thinking, okay, could we do marble? You know, like maybe the tabletop that this board could be put on the cover could be marble, or it could be black, like charcoal black, and then some brown as well. But then when you apply that wood, which was, you know, kind of almost seamless with the actual board, but you can still see the border. But you know, it just kind of continues that texture. It just looked so good, and I'm so happy you went with the actual wood texture, because I think it looks so nice, especially with the saturated reds and, you know, the colors on here. It just looks so good as a cover. I'm very pleased.
Yeah, it can. The black. I did like the black marble.
Yeah.
I like the white marble too, but it represented it in a different way. And I think the wood, the big block of cutting board behind the charcuterie board, it makes the letters pop. It makes the colors pop. It makes your art pop so much better. So.
Yeah, and I think it looks a bit more warm and kind of inviting.
Sure.
As just as a kind of mood and a feeling. I'm just going to flip my camera. Hold on. Let me make sure I don't mess it up.
Don't leave this time.
On camera. Okay, we're back.
Yeah, so here's the cover. So one of the stretch goals we had was the spot UV. So your art is actually going to have that little bit of a shimmer to it, and it'll stand out even more from the background. So even the side, look at how sharp that is on the side.
Yeah, it just looks so good against the brown wood.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it looks so good. You did so well. I mean, you know, it's just, that's what I was saying earlier. It's difficult to imagine how you can make this work, and oops, sorry, there you go. And you know, just display it in a way that will pop.
Yeah.
I don't think I would be able to envision that. So I'm not into graphic design, so I'm just so pleased that you did it like so amazingly. It just looks so good.
Came out so good. I don't even know if this will translate well either, but there's your strawberry.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what you were saying, that them on being on a white background, it also would look a little bit, I don't know, maybe more DIY, you know, kind of like a cat out if you were just to like print it out and do it yourself. So I think adding color certainly adds like a different level of thought to it.
Well, it also, so what we ended up doing, like I mentioned, is we added the color for the background. So you can look right away and see the red for this is meat, the green for this is veggie, the pinkish or orange for fruit, and then the blue, it's got a light blue border for the dips. And then the back, we put the icons. So for colorblind friendly, like, you know exactly what they are. And the way that when we thought about this for initially, we were like, color border, it's not going to look good. But then every time we've played it since, and all the play testing and all the pictures that come out of it on a board and people presenting their final board, it's easy for gameplay purposes. It's easy to know like what this is from just looking at the color of the border. And then from an aesthetic perspective, it makes it look so good on the board.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, right? Because obviously, you know, you have experience in doing these things as well. And sometimes you might think, oh yeah, I have experience and I kind of have a feeling what will work, what will not. And then with certain things, it just doesn't. And you have to kind of go against your initial intuition, you know? It's a funny thing.
Yeah, we did not. When we thought about adding a color border, I think unanimously, we were like, oh no, like this, no, whatever. And then it came across and we were like, just in love with it. Like we can't even think about it another way now with the way that it's represented. Like just I mean, I don't even want to show them. It doesn't do it justice. Looking on the camera doesn't do this strawberry justice, or this, like the fact that you put that little orange seed in there. Just bonkers. Absolutely bonkers, Jola.
I think citrus fruit, actually, whenever you paint citrus fruit, anyone, I think the seeds are essential. That's what, for some reason, they just have to be there. I mean, anytime I paint, actually, I can show you, I have a collection of lemons here. Oops, that's just on my wall.
No,
That's for something. Oh, can I do this? Oh my goodness, that's so difficult to put. Sorry, I'm like, you know, when there's a mirror camera and you don't know what you're doing? Okay, hold on. There we go.
Often.
So
Look at
these,
that.
actually, this one doesn't have seeds. What am I saying? But this one does. Okay. I was like, this has to have seeds. This one as well. These
Yeah.
ones, little pieces. So I just feel like it just makes and breaks the citrus for some reason.
For sure.
We have some squeeze juice out action going on as well. That's quite fun. But yeah, I think it's just a nice little tip for citrus fruit, by the way. Just the seeds have to be there. Makes sense.
Unreal. All right. Well, we've crossed an hour. I appreciate your time and your work. Beautiful again. I say it I say it often enough. Just a bang up job. Stellar, beautiful artwork. It really makes the game that much better having your art in the game. So thank you for doing it.
Well, that's my pleasure. Super fun project, like I said. So thank you for having me. Thanks for chatting to me as well. Then we show the artwork. I think it's nice to see like the back, you know, kind of backstage as well. That gives a different dimension maybe to the game. But yeah, super fun project. So really appreciate the opportunity, and I love how it looks. So it's just that's the cherry on top.
All right, so find Jola here. Do yourself a favor. Go follow. Go support. Go share. Go do all the social media things that people do. And you'll see more than just food. Do you if you had a choice, I guess what's your favorite, food or flowers? Because I know you do a lot of botanical stuff, like flower wise too. Which one do you prefer?
Definitely food, 100%.
Really nice.
I think flowers. Sometimes I struggle with flowers. I don't know what it is. I mean, certain flowers are easier than others, but for some reason, yeah, they're probably not my favorites. I like them too, but no, food is definitely up there. So
Food's the thing.
that's why I was so ready when you told me, like, yes, please, a board game about food. Oh my god, that's a dream. Perfect. For sure.
Definitely worked out. I'm a little biased, but I definitely worked out.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to be. I'm biased too, so how can you not be? It's how it is. But yeah, thank you for chatting. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, same to you.
Fun.
Find the links, do the things. If you have any questions, find us on the Discord. We're there. I'm there constantly. Yola's on there. So reach out with any questions you have, and we appreciate the support. And again, thanks for all your hard work and the hours you put into this, and your time to talk to me on a Sunday afternoon.
It's my pleasure. Have a lovely Sunday, everyone.
See you later. Luca, you want to say bye?
Goodbye to Luca as well.
Let's see if he'll say bye. Luca, you want to say bye? Luca?
Is he busy painting? I know he's an artist himself. So.
Oh, he's not. No. You want to say bye?
Oh, there he is, the man himself. Hello, Luca. Hi and bye. Oh, so sweet.
Okay. See you all soon.
Thank you so much, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.